The masculine journey is about men coming together and really connecting to something that's ancient in each of us. You know, when we look at the modern world and where we've evolved into, we've gotten far away from our roots. Where for a long period of time, men used to gather around the fire and talk and connect with deeper meanings and philosophies in life, and what it means to be a man, and especially in the world where we're at now. The masculine journey is about really accessing the masculine principle within each of us through certain type of techniques, through certain type of processes, where men can really start to get down to the root for themselves of what it means to be a man in the modern world. And not just the masculine principle, but really also to connect with the feminine principle, because everything in the universe is made up of both masculine and feminine principles. So when we can have both of those be in balance and harmony within ourselves, we could really create a fruitful life and relationships and results, and and address some of the real fundamental concerns that people have, what it means to be a man in today's world. The masculine principle includes the feminine, because if we're too far over into the masculine principle, men become hardened. They aren't able to access a certain level of connection and compassion and emotion and even passion in their life. The feminine is the soil. So when the masculine principle comes together with the feminine, or is really, let's say, is accessed within ourselves, that creates the soil for us to fly, to grow. And the workshop really has at its core getting back to what's fundamental for men. And it is men, the masculine journey is about the men, and also the sacred feminine is about the women. Together, the men and women maybe are doing the workshop separately, but there is a coming together from that, where whether it's physically coming together, there may be some time, a moment for that during the weekends, but also too when they come together in their relationship, out back into their life, into their families. What we found is that there's a profound depth of relationship, way that they connect with each other. And whether you're in a relationship or not, there's been many men that have done the masculine journey, women that have done the sacred feminine, that want to get into a relationship. And these workshops are really about creating that foundation that we can find and develop intimate, loving relationships. Because in my opinion, it's a bedrock or a pillar of an extraordinary life, is to be able to have someone to share it with, not just one person. Yes, one person maybe is an intimate wife, husband, but that also overflows into how we relate to others in the world. And I really believe a bedrock of an abundant, successful life is to have a loving, intimate, powerful, passionate relationship. And we address that in the masculine journey. And we do some techniques that are there's some. It really is a combination of East, West, shamanic work. Some work from the East about having men really connect to a deeper part of themselves, work to face those places within themselves as men that gets in the way of an abundant, fruitful, loving, passionate life and relationship. And it's powerful. It's really powerful. And how far people come from a Friday to a Sunday is really, really profound. There's no prerequisites for it. So there's a whole vast dynamic of men of different places in life, and it's really bringing us together to support each other, to be a space for each other to dive into the masculine principle, and the journey really begins from that place. So for single people, what most people find is that there usually is something that can get in the way of finding a relationship. Like if I want to be in a relationship and I want to find a woman to be with and ultimately settle down with and be married to, and I really get to look at myself and what type of space or environment I am for that to show up. And what happens is most people are looking, but rather than saying, okay, what do I get to see and confront and maybe transcend, maybe elaborate on within myself, to have that show up in my life. That's important, because until that happens, whether it's a woman or a man, until we can become the fertile soil for it to show up, it won't show up. So that to address those places within ourselves, the fears, the places where we're in conflict, the places where seeing how we relate to women or men, where we bring our past experiences and maybe trauma into that, all of that creates a certain type of environment that I am to either have the relationship show up or not. So for single people, it's critical, because we're going to really dive into that they can see that for themselves, get a clear picture of, wow, this is how I show up into life, into the world that has a relationship not show up, and what I get to be for myself for it to show up. That's for both the masculine journey and the sacred feminine. And women stepping in to be the soil also for men to fly, and men being able to really get into their core about what it means to be a man for women, for the women that we love, and to really access that within ourselves. It's not just, though, about relationships. It's also about how I relate to things in my life, such as money, how I relate to my own self-talk as a man, my own ability to create as a man, because being able to create our life the way that we really want it to look, in terms of abundance and intimacy and love and passion and freedom and power, and all of that is really deeply embedded in us in terms of what we're able to generate as a man. I feel it's really tied in there, and so it's not just about relationship. That's one aspect of it, but it's really tied to who we are as men and how we see ourselves at the core. For women also, so the sacred feminine has similar processes and fundamentals, but it's its own distinct workshop. For women, also too, looking at their past, looking at how they've related to the world and how their life has been to either be the environment, the space for it, or not, to have that loving, intimate relationship. I think for a woman, and I know that they address this in the sacred feminine, it's really important to be able to create that, because that intimacy and love and passion, again, like I was saying, I think is a bedrock and foundation for an extraordinary life. For the men, there's some tribal themes to it. There's some themes about really getting to the root and core of the really ancient principles in a modern mystical type setting. And given the feedback and the people who have done it, it's been extremely powerful for them to go through this process with other men, and a bond that's formed from it that supports them in the growth as men in their life. So, and with couples, we'll do a process where they'll come together at the end of the workshops, and the way that they come together is really, it's deep and connected. Couples that have done this together have reported that their experiences with each other and their relationships have radically transformed. It's like going and learning a language where you can communicate together, but learning it on your own, in your own environment. So when you come together, you'll be able to really approach each other and be intimate and connected with each other without all that stuff that is typically in the way of relationships. There's a huge breakdown in relationships in our society, culture, and world ultimately right now, but mainly our society, where there's so much that gets in the way of communication. There's very often a confusion of masculine and feminine roles. There is a confusion of what is needed for an effective relationship, sex, sexuality, how we connect as men and women with these really important fundamental pillars or foundations of a relationship that are needed. So what happens is, and for the weekend, it's really important too and really powerful when the men and women do it together on the same weekend, and then come together after that. Even though they may be together throughout the weekend, at night and when they're home, they might be together still going into the workshops Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and what they open up for themselves. It's really amazing what comes out of that.